Welcome to Epic Begins with One Step Forward, the podcast that reveals how to plan, achieve, and enjoy the journey of creating epic results in your life, business, health, and relationships. Here's your host, best-selling author and motivational speaker, Xander Sprague.
Hello, epic people, and welcome back to another exciting episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward. I'm your host, Xander Sprague, and today, this is going to be going. I am joined by Paul Teasdale. Paul, tell us a little about who you are.
Firstly, thanks so much for having me on, Xander. I've been really looking forward to this and loving your podcasts up to now, and bringing a huge amount of value to your audience. So, first of all, kudos for that. About me, I've got a bit of an interesting background. I have done everything from sort of sausage making, banking, Formula One, lots of different things in between, international shipping, dairy manufacture, all sorts of different pieces. But my journey has always been about helping others perform at their best. Whether I've been in-house or as an external consultant, I've lived and worked mainly in the UK, where I am now and where I was born. But I also lived out in New Zealand for 5 years, working for a couple of big companies out there. And I've come back, worked for 7 years with the Formula One team, McLaren, and their business, helping to take some of their ways of working out to other organizations. And now I work independently, taking all of those lessons, pulling it into a package and helping people perform at their best.
Awesome. Well, thank you. And obviously I was like, huge difference from sausage making to Formula One, and especially McLaren. So, first of all, very interested on that epic journey from stuffing sausages to how did you get to McLaren from sausages?
Yeah, I mean, the very short answer is taking the opportunities that came my way, and along with making things happen myself. That's been a big learning more towards the end of the career, or to where the career is right now. Hopefully not the end by any means. But I started off, I did an engineering degree. I was always good from a maths and science perspective. And like a lot of engineers, didn't have a clue what I wanted to do with that. So went along the engineering route and into manufacturing engineering in particular. Yeah. So all the methodologies, Toyota management system, those things. And started my career with a company that repaired and overhauled aeroplane engine parts. And did that for about a year, realized it wasn't for me in terms of the role that was there. And I then joined another business, which was the Kerry Foods, who make the sausages. And so I was a production manager in a sausage factory for a couple of years or so, working with some amazing people and some amazing product. It's a part of the deal was to have to be on taste panel every day and tasting the previous day's sausages and bacon that we sliced. And it was basically like having a free breakfast every day, and I never got tired of it. And I learned a huge amount there, particularly in the people management side. But an opportunity, and this is a common theme, opportunity came my way through a contact to go into a small business that was, well, let's say small business, relatively small in terms of people, not in terms of turnover, managing international shipping containers.
Okay.
And so they were looking for somebody with a manufacturing background to bring performance improvement into their organization.
Definitely.
And so I took that opportunity, said, well, why not? Let's go for it, see where it takes us. And, I ended up helping them essentially predominantly with their invoicing. So really tightening up their processes and taking all of that manufacturing methodology and applying it to this sort of sales channel and movement of shipping containers, and help them to essentially their invoice failure rate was about 30 to 40%. So they would get
good for a business.
Questions back. Now, a lot of that was their own fault, and a lot of it was the shipping industry is and still is full of pirates, should we say, people who will take any opportunity to try and argue against any cost. So as soon as they see a small crack that things are wrong, they'll question it, they'll push that back. And it has obviously a huge impact on the business cash flow. And I just took those lessons and applied them in. I then got an opportunity to work in a consultancy. So I realized that I was doing this stuff, essentially being a consultant, but I had no training, no development. I was the only person in that organization doing that. And so I looked outside and said, right, how can I get into an organization that gives me the skill set and the confidence to go off and do this. So I worked for a consulting company that focused on food manufacturing in particular, and did that for 5 years, living on the road, living in hotels, working in everything from pizza manufacturer to fruit sorting and everything in between.
Sure.
And had some great times and some great learnings. And from there, it was a case of the then new wife at that stage. I think we'd been married for less than a year. We were looking to make a move out of London, sort of living in the big city, and decided we're going to make a move. So where should we go? There's other places in the UK like Manchester and Birmingham, and we chose Auckland in New Zealand. So we thought we'll make
that's a little, kind of more on, east of Birmingham, but okay.
It's a bit left field, but it was, again, the opportunities that were there. And one of the lessons, particularly when you're talking about taking steps for your career and moving your career forward, one of the key things I did there was my sister lived over in New Zealand, still does. And we were over for her wedding. And I literally, whilst we were there on holiday, I literally went around businesses. I'd picked 3 or 4 that I knew I'd like to work for, and literally knocked on the door and said, I know you're not recruiting right now because I've looked at your website, but here's me. I'm in country. We're at the other side of the world. If I can speak to somebody about what I do, this saves a lot of time and effort if the job that suits me does come about.
Right.
So let's have that chat and do it. And that really came to fruition a few months later, and we moved out to New Zealand. So
awesome.
That was an epic journey in its own right. So
absolutely. And Paul, what I have to say is I was listening. I look at my own career and say, I graduated with a degree in history and psychology.
Yeah.
Again, took opportunities that popped up, got jobs that I had absolutely no right having. I mean, honestly, like I love, telling people, look, believe me, anything is possible. I don't know. Do you know what like a Unix operating system is? It's
I'm aware of it. I couldn't tell you anything more than
right.
that.
I mean, but you understand. Okay, so
yeah.
I somehow got hired to work on a Unix help desk, and I did not know what Unix was in the interview. I don't know how I mean, first of all, working on a help desk implies that not only do you know it, but you know it well enough to help someone else.
Yeah.
But again, I think you and I might share that same belief in yourself that it doesn't matter that I don't know how to do this particular thing, or I only have a few of the skills that they're looking for.
Yeah.
Sure. Yes, I can do that. Right. And then you figure it out,
Yeah.
And that's the fun part. I mean, I love to encourage people to say, just because you don't know how to do it. I mean, let's face it, in a job, if you had all the skills that a job required, why would you want that job? There's no challenge.
I also have I've coached a few people on this recently as well. Is I deliberately at 2 stages. One, when I moved from the dairy company that I worked in New Zealand into the banking world, which is a bit of a left field step for me because I had no like you with the Unix. I knew how to spend money on a credit card, and that was pretty much it.
Yeah.
And then similarly, when I left New Zealand to join McLaren, one of the first things I said in the interview was, if you want somebody who knows this industry inside out, then don't hire me. If you want someone who can bring this experience that's completely different, but has this application and can move you in these ways and add value in this way, then I'm your man.
Definitely.
And I think that has 2 key benefits that I've found. One is you will know immediately if you give people the opportunity immediately to say, actually, no, we need somebody with real experience. So thank you, but this isn't the fit. And that's great because it saves both of you a lot of time.
Well, it does. I mean, yeah, you take a job and then they're like, well, we needed this skill set. And you're like, well, I didn't lie. I mean, I told you but then you have that whole, I've been trying to learn this job. Now I'm out of a job. Oh, the anxiety there. So,
yeah.
And I'm interested.
The second,
yeah.
Yeah,
go ahead.
I was going to say just the second part of that is if you can get somebody to say within that first minute or so that actually, no, that's not what we're after, then you've opened the door for you to come across and go, right, then this is how I can add value. And the receptive nature of it is fantastic. And I've had great success with that, with a couple of big career moves in my time.
Absolutely. Now, my daughters are huge F1 fans.
Right.
I like it, but I'm gonna say I didn't grow up with it. But how did you get to McLaren?
So
And how long did
one of
you
the
work
things,
with them, or are you still working with them?
no, so I was looking to move back from the bank that I worked in New Zealand. My wife and our then sort of 1-year-old, 1.5-year-old son. We were looking to move back to the UK to be closer to family. And what I did, and another great thing that people can do, is just reach out to your network and say, look, we're looking to move back. Who's got something that they think might be of interest? And I had a friend of mine who I'd known since before university days,
Right.
who worked at McLaren, who ran and still does, or did until recently, ran the simulator there. So the kit where people are actually sitting in the simulated car and driving it around.
Well, that's pretty cool.
Amazingly talented guy. And he said, I think they're looking for consultant type people for a particular role they're just kicking off. So would you like me to introduce? Yes, I would. Thank you very much. Had some conversations over the phone, and then said, look, if I'm going to make people think I'm serious about this, because one of the challenges when you're so far away is, are you really going to move for this? Are you really going to make the move? And so I was like, look, I'm going to jump on a plane. My cost, I'm going to come over, and I'd like an interview in person so that you can see me and know what I'm about. I had a few other interviews lined up as well that I didn't tell them about.
Of course.
But, make it worth your while. But demonstrating that commitment can go a big way. And one of the first things I said was, I'm not an F1 fan. I've not grown up with it. I couldn't tell you, most things about an F1 car. And if you want that, then I'm not your man.
Right.
But if you want somebody who can bring this experience and tell the stories and bring the performance element out, then, let's talk. And like most industries, they've got lots and lots of experts in their field. What they don't have is the wider, broader thinking. So actually, I just happened to chance on a time when they were looking to bring in people from external parties deliberately so that they could bring in that thinking.
Definitely.
So yeah, I worked with them for close to 7 years. So wow, an amazing time.
That's amazing. And please tell me that you were able to try out that simulator at least once in that 7 years.
Yeah, I've been in the simulator. It like a lot of Formula One cars, I can get into a Formula One car. Getting out of it is a different matter. But
we're not talking about that, Paul. I get you on that.
Yeah, the simulator is amazing. It's such a surreal experience because you forget as soon as you're in that car and you look at the big screens in front, you forget it's a simulation. It's as close to reality as you'll ever get.
And then I guess that the next burning question is, do you have an F1 career in front of you there, Paul? How did you do in the simulator?
So since leaving McLaren, I now work independently, bringing the stories and the learnings from that world of F1. So I talk about leadership lessons. I talk about how to improve like an F1 team. Lots of things around data-driven decisions because it's such a highly data-driven organization and sport.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But there's some massive lessons that I took from there that really help people to free up their headspace, focus on the right data, and actually focus on small data over big data. And that was a key lesson on there.
Absolutely. Well, I guess I wanted to know, you got into the simulator, you tried to drive it. How did you do?
Oh, yeah.
McLaren was like, "Oh, Paul, we need you to go race Silverstone for us, right?"
Yeah, I'd struggle to get out of the car park. It was the cars are something else. They're set up for experts they're fine tuned. They're like fine tuned horses, race horses. You don't jump onto a racehorse and just go for a little gallop around the field. It's they're going to buck you off.
I get it. Yeah. Doesn't mean that you're still not. Hey, let me give it a try. You probably failed, and I'm not trying to be mean here, but very soon out of the gate, you're kind of like, I'm spinning. I am off the track. I blew the engine up. So. Yeah.
Even just pulling away, you'll stall, you'll you'll go far too fast. You'll start spinning and fishtailing straight away. It's just putting your foot on the throttle is a whole different feel to driving your normal road car.
Absolutely. And certainly Formula One is, it's all about, is my understanding. It is so much about the numbers. There's so much big data and small data that goes into all of it. And insane amount of money that goes into each of these, organizations and stuff. So that must have just been fascinating. Did you, I assume that you did get to go see at least a few F1 races in your 7 years?
But funnily enough, no, I never did.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot of it behind the scenes. So I hosted a lot of our guests and people that we worked with. Predominantly, we've got the headquarters in Woking is literally sort of a couple of miles down the road from where I live here, and they have the mission control there where they make all the big decisions. They've got people in front of the big screens, a bit like a sort of NASA mission control setup. And we would host guests there for the race events and actually show them behind the scenes how decisions are being made, how they're being communicated, what they're being based on. And that's where, because my job was a lot about how do you take the methodologies and the thinking, the approaches, and some of the technology or the approach to technology and apply it to your organization.
Definitely.
And so, I was helping people to see and feel what it felt like to have that level of data at your fingertips in a controlled manner.
Definitely.
And then, helping them to say, right, how does that apply to my business? What can we do? Let's build a proof of concept and move it forward.
Definitely. Now, Paul, you it sounds like you've listened to some of my podcasts, and I ask this question a lot, which is, I think two of the most powerful words that we have are not yet.
Yeah.
The have you? I always wanted to go to New Zealand. Have you gone? Not yet. Leaves that open up, or I want to do this. Not yet. So here's a question for you. What is one or two of your not yet?
It's a good one because I've done a lot, but there's always so much more to take. I've yet to. A Formula One race actually is one of those that I haven't done yet, and having seen behind the scenes so much, and now having stepped away directly from the organization, I would like to go there and see the reality, because when you are working for an organization selling their wares, should we say, in terms of their methodology, you sell the dream, you don't necessarily sell the reality. So you start to pick away at things there. But I'd love to, but it wouldn't be the race itself. Yeah, would love to see it, the noise and the feel and all the rest of it. What I would love to go to is the debrief processes afterwards. I've seen a lot of video and I've seen a few things behind the scenes at McLaren headquarters, but actually the race event, how those teams interact in order to be the high performance organizations they are, that's the stuff of not yet, really.
Sure. And that, wow, that's fascinating. I have a feeling you might know one or two people who might be able to get you in there, Paul.
Yeah.
Well, that's cool. Yeah, no, I think I think not yet is such a great way to talk about the stuff that we're dreaming of doing. Some of our epic journeys take time, and I always find it funny. I'm old enough and have enough experience to say, okay, if someone just started university, you that, you wouldn't say, well, do you have your degree yet? Right? Because that they've got 4 years to, that they're only starting. We call them a freshman. I don't know what they call it in England, but like you're like, I know that person's got 4 years, right? So I'm not going to ask them if they have their degree yet. They just started, right? However, you get out of school and you tell people you're writing a book, you're going to run a marathon, you're going to do something. Have you finished your book? And if you say no, it's such a hard stop. It's so one, self-defeating, because no, I didn't achieve that yet. But people don't understand, right? And it would sort of be like, if we go back to McLaren, have you won whatever at
Championship,
this
yeah,
racetrack, right? Not
yeah.
yet. Doesn't mean you're not going to, just means you haven't done it yet. We're working on it. Or have you dialed the car? We know the first couple of races you weren't dialed in. Have you dialed it in? Yes. This driver has now dialed in how to tweak it, right? So I just think it's so important. Not yet gives so much room for it could happen. Look, there are absolutely things in our life that we may dream of doing, and we just may never get to it, but we still have it on that not yet list, right?
I talked to my 10-year-old son in particular, and I use the word "not yet," so, in that phrase, because I think it's we talk. There's a lot to be learned from if you're nurturing children, you're bringing them up, and you're getting them into the world. You forget that how you're talking to them. Actually, you should be talking to yourself that way, or to your colleagues and your team. Because my son will get really frustrated with his maths homework or something. It's like, I don't know how to do this algebra. And I'm like, just finish that sentence for me, will you? And he goes, I don't know how to do this algebra yet. And I was like, thank you. That's what.
Exactly. Exactly. And yeah. And I think with children, but just in general, are you done, Paul? Do you have that report? Not yet. It doesn't mean that you're not going to know. I don't. It makes it sound like you're never going to get that report to them. But perhaps you're like, not yet, because our internet is down and I can't get the research I need, So I think that's so important. And I love to ask people, what's your not yet? What's that? Say out loud that thing, those things that you dream of doing. And look, maybe you're like, I don't know, I'll just choose something. Get your pilot's license. It may be a dream, and maybe you're like, I'm not actively doing it, but it's still there. I maybe I get to it, maybe I don't. Doesn't matter. I'm still holding out hope that might happen.
The other thing on my list would be a TED talk or a TEDx talk.
Oh my gosh, yes.
That's a not yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. That's definitely on my not yet list also. And
fantastic.
And I'll tell you, just talking about the TED, I was looking, for like TEDx talks locally. And it's funny, for TEDx being is awesome at like the TED Talks, like is awesome and organized. The TEDx, people can put on TEDx talks, and you can go to the TED Talk site, and you'll see the thing. But there are people who say, "Hey, I'm having TEDx talk." There's absolutely no contact info, right? Yeah. So I'm like, there's not a website, there's not a phone number, there's not an email address, and I'm like, so how are they not requiring some basic contact info? Because what if I wanted to go, oh, hey, this sounds like it's a cool thing, I'd like to go. Yeah. Where do I get tickets? As a speaker, how do I contact? I might be the perfect guest, speaker that you're looking for, but I have no idea. All I see is, Paul Teasdale. Well, okay. Yeah. How do I find? Anyway, that's my own little personal frustration.
I've had the same frustrations at this end.
Frustration
as well,
of like, yes, I'd like to do it, but I can't. I can't seem to get out. I can't. I'm popping the clutch and stalling it. Let me tell you. So, with your variety of experiences, what advice might you give the audience about, for their epic journey?
The first thing is to take the opportunities that come your way. I never set out to work in banking or in Formula One, and it just so happened that was serendipitous. But it's make the things happen for yourself as well. If you want to make a move, what are the things that you can do that are going to be a positive step to putting yourself out there?
Definitely.
Maybe it's contacting people on LinkedIn. Maybe it's sort of hooking up your network and seeing who can contact you directly with some people. But one of the key lessons I got made redundant from the sort of dairy company I was working in New Zealand. Completely unexpected. My wife was 7 months pregnant at the time. And it was like, what do I do? I'm on the other side of the world. I'm going to be without a job. And so I went through a lot of the sort of grief process, shall we say, of all of that. But off the back of it, I documented all my learnings. And I was like, this is actually the steps that I took to actually get me from where I am now into the next step in my career. And I combined that recently with one of the key frameworks that I developed off my time with McLaren. I call it the rapid performance. So we talk about you understand your results, your actions that you can take, the people involved, the insights that you need, and then finally the data, which is a good way of helping you to get the smallest possible data set. And that's a big lesson I took from the F1 world. And I actually applied that model to rapid career development. And it's completely free on my website. I've got a part of the website called Rapid Career Development, with a series of videos that might help people to just think about what are the steps they need to go through to make either a known and proactive step to the next career, or if they're reacting to something, having a process to follow might be something of value to them. So if you go to my website at paulteasdale.co.uk and look for the rapid career development, there's a load of content there that's completely free for everyone.
And that is awesome, Paul. And yes, I would agree. As I talk about in my book, structure is our friend, and especially if you've been made redundant, downsized, outsourced, whatever. However, you find yourself kind of flailing.
Yes.
Structure can really be your friend to help right your ship and help you figure out where you want to go. So that's great. I will have a link to paulteasdaleco.uk in the podcast. Paul, I want to thank you so much. It's been a fascinating conversation, from sausages to F1. Incredible.
There's not a lot of me out there that have got that level of experience, or that mix of experience, shall we say. So always happy to chat, and thanks for an amazing conversation.
Not a problem. As always, I want to remind everyone, you can go to epicbegins.com to get all kinds of information about me, the podcast. There'll be stuff about Paul up there. And remember that epic choices lead to the epic life that you want.
Get your gift copy of the award-winning book, Epic Begins with One Step Forward, at epicbegins.com. That's a wrap on this episode of Epic Begins with One Step Forward, with your host, Xander Sprague, best-selling author, internationally acclaimed public speaker, and licensed professional clinical counselor. To make your next conference or event epic, send an email to Xander at zander@epicbegins.com. Be sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. Remember, epic choices, epic life.